What a race that was in Miami. We had pressure at the front, late drama, spins, crashes, and some really big performance across the grid. Mercedes got the win with Kimi Antonelli. McLaren looked seriously quick. Ferrari completely fell apart at the end, and there is a lot to talk about. So in this video, here is my reaction to everything that happened in the Miami Grand Prix. Starting with McLaren, Lando Norris had a strong race. He started fourth and finished second, but I think he'll be slightly disappointed not to win this one. He got overtaken by Kimi after the pit stops, and from that point on, he was putting him under pressure for basically the whole race. At times, Lando looked like the fastest driver on track, so even though second is a great result, he probably feels like victory was there to be taken. Still, overall, a really strong job from both Lando and McLaren. Oscar Piastri also had a brilliant race. He started 7th and finished 3rd, which is a fantastic result. He made a great start, stayed in the fight all race long, and then pulled off that overtake on Charles Leclerc on the final lap to grab that last podium spot. McLaren definitely look like they're moving in the right direction with this upgraded car, and this was a really encouraging weekend for them. For Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli was the star of the race. He started on pole and converted it into the win, which is seriously impressive. Passing Lando after the pit stop phase was a massive moment, and from there he handled the pressure really well. To lead the championship and deliver a drive like that shows a lot of maturity. Just a really impressive performance from Kimi. George Russell, on the other hand, had a quieter race. He started 5th and finished 4th, but compared to Kimi, he just didn't seem to have the pace all weekend. He looked off the pace for most of the race and probably benefited a bit from Charles' late spin. 4th is still solid points, but it wasn't the most convincing performance from George. Ferrari had a pretty rough race overall. Lewis Hamilton started 6th and finished 7th, and he just never really looked competitive. It was one of those weekends where nothing seems to click. He also had that lap 1 collision with Franco Colapinto, so maybe there was some damage on the car, which could explain part of the lack of pace. Either way, definitely a weekend to forget for Lewis. Charles Leclerc started 3rd and finished 6th, and that result really tells the story of Ferrari's race. He was fighting Piastri on the final lap, then spun the car and ended up losing even more positions right at the end. To drop behind George and Max in the final meters is just brutal. A really frustrating race for Charles and Ferrari. Red Bull also had a messy weekend. Max Verstappen started 2nd and finished 5th. He spun on the opening lap, pitted early, and then just didn't have the tire life at the end to defend properly. Losing the place to George late on pretty much summed up his race. It wasn't a disaster, but it definitely wasn't the kind of performance Max would have wanted. For Isaac Hadjar, it was even worse. He had to start from the pit lane after being disqualified from qualifying, and then his race ended early after clipping the barrier and crashing out. Just a really tough weekend from start to finish. Alpine actually had some positives. Franco Colapinto started 8th and finished 8th, and that's a really solid result. He had that first lap contact with Hamilton, but he still kept it together and brought home points for the team. Finishing best of the rest is a great effort and something Alpine can definitely build on. Pierre Gasly was much less fortunate. He started 9th but didn't finish after getting taken out by Liam Lawson. Absolutely not his fault, just really bad luck. Audi had a mixed day. Gabriel Bortoleto started 21st and finished 12th, which is honestly a very respectable drive. From that far back, there wasn't much more he could realistically do, so I think that was the maximum result available. Nico Hülkenberg started 10th but did not finish, and it looked like there may have been a car issue. So overall, not a great weekend for Audi, even if Gabriel did his best to salvage something from it. For Haas, Oli Berman started 12th and finished 11th. That's a good drive, and he was so close to scoring points. Haas just seemed a little slower than Williams today, so 11th was probably about the best he could do. Esteban Ocon started 14th and finished 13th. Nothing spectacular, but he stayed fairly close to Berman, so there are at least a few positives there for Haas. Williams had a genuinely strong day. Carlos Sainz started 13th and finished 9th, which is a great result. He brought home points and maximized the car really well. Williams definitely seemed to be moving in the right direction. Alex Albon started 15th and finished 10th, so that made it a double points finish for Williams, which they'll be really happy about. It's still not where the team ultimately want to be, but compared to where they were, this is a clear progress. Racing Bulls had a terrible race. Liam Lawson started 11th but did not finish after locking up in the final corner and flipping Pierre Gasly. That was a really poor mistake and one that hurt both his race and Gasly's. Arvid Lindblad started 16th and finished 14th, but the team just had no real pace all weekend, definitely one to forget for Racing Bulls. Cadillac had a difficult but slightly encouraging race. Sergio Perez started 20th and finished 16th, and while that's obviously not a huge result, at least he managed to beat one of the Aston Martins. For a new team still trying to build momentum, that's something. Valtteri Bottas started 19th and finished 18th, last of the classified finishers, and he also picked up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Just a rough day overall for him. And finally, Aston Martin still looks stuck. Fernando Alonso started 17th and finished 15th, which was probably the best he could do. He beat both Cadillacs and his teammate, but that's not exactly the standard Fernando wants to be fighting at. Lance Stroll started 18th and finished 17th, and honestly there wasn't much he could do either. Aston just doesn't have the pace right now, and it showed again in Miami. Overall, Mercedes and McLaren were the big story here. Kimi gets another huge win. McLaren looks seriously competitive with the upgrades. Ferrari made costly mistakes, and teams like Williams and Alpine will be happy to take home solid points. Miami gave us a lot to talk about. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe.